My name is Jeff Morgan. I am from Dallas, Texas. And in my hand right here is the most expensive book. And it's not really even a book. It's kind of a manuscript of sort. This is the most expensive book, manuscript, whatever, that I have in my library. Now, at one time I had over 3,000 books in my library. That has been diminished considerably over the last 10 years. But nevertheless, even out of those 3,000 books that I had, this would be considered the most expensive book or manuscript that I ever had. This manuscript right here costs $1,590. And as you can see, it's nothing fancy, but it did cost $1,590. Altogether, there are a total of 280 pages in this. And when this manuscript or whatever it was that was received, it wasn't even bound like this. It actually came as a PDF, and the person who gave this to me, because even though this is the most expensive book or manuscript in my library, I was given this for free. So this person had to pay $1,590 for a PDF, which he later printed off and then had bound with wire binding and the plastic cover and everything else. So what is this wonderful $1,590 manuscript or book, whatever you want to call it, that is in my library that was given to me for free? This is a transcript from a trial. This is the reporter's record, volume 1 of 1 volume, the trial court cause number 469-50355-2013. And this is a case called Vanessa Ogle versus Robert Garza in the District Court, Collin County, Texas, the 469th Judicial District. And various motions and hearing. On the 24th day of January 2020, the following proceedings came on to be heard in the above entitled and numbered cause before the Honorable Piper McCraw, Judge presiding, held in McKinney, Collin County, Texas. Proceedings reported by machine shorthand. And the court certified the court reporter, her name is Stephanie M. Hunn, H-U-N-N, of the 469th court. Anyway, again, this manuscript, 280 pages of a PDF, cost $1,590, and that's not including the printing for the paper itself and the binding and so on. Now, the reason I got this is because within this 280 pages of this $1,590 manuscript is my testimony that I gave in front of the court when attorney Rick Robertson of the Kuntz Fuller Law Firm, attorney Rick Robertson, who was fishing for witnesses, who got me kicked out of the courtroom because I, as a media person, was reporting on the case. Attorney Rick Robertson got me kicked out of the courtroom because he wanted to call me as a witness.
Your Honor, we would ask Mr. Jeff Morgan to stand, please, and be sworn in. And we would like to identify any other people there in the courtroom that may have a connection to the case that we may want to call them as witnesses. Ms. Morgan? Okay. Is that your name?
I don't know anything about this.
Your Honor, Mr. Morgan has posted social media posts on YouTube with interviews of Carolina Garza, references to Robert Garza. And he was in the courtroom the last time. I intend to ask him questions, and I would ask that he stand up and be sworn and excluded from the courtroom.
He's not a fact witness, Your Honor. All he is a observer. What Mr. Robertson is trying to promote here is a violation of the open court policy with regard to other individuals observing court proceedings.
So I was able to get a copy of this transcript so I could talk about what exactly took place. And the reason that I requested this manuscript and that it was given to me for free, this $1,590 manuscript, court transcript, somebody had to pay $1,590 for this court transcript sent to him in a PDF, is because I am listed in here as a witness. So this was by Mr. Rick Robertson of the Kuntz Fuller Law Firm. He was looking for witnesses. Your Honor, we would ask Mr. Jeff Morgan to stand, please, and be sworn in. And the court said, who? Mr. Robertson, and we would like to identify any other people that are in the courtroom that may have a connection to this case. Now remember, I was in this case volunteering for United Parents for Children News Network, and Rick Robertson, the attorney from Coons Fuller law firm that says every story has two sides, you want Coons Fuller to be on your side. Coons Fuller charges an obscene amount of money in the cases that they represent, and they will obviously adjust to whichever side is willing to pay them the money. Rick Robertson wanted to identify other people in the courtroom. The court said, okay, who are you asking to stand? I am sorry. Mr. Robertson says, Mr. Morgan. The court said, okay. So Mr. Robertson says to me, is that your name? To which I responded, and I am referred to as Mr. Morgan. This is on page 11, line 25. Mr. Morgan, I don't know anything about this. Mr. Robertson, the attorney, the family law attorney, replies, Your Honor, Mr. Morgan has posted social media posts on YouTube with interviews of Carolina Garza, references to Robert Garza. He was in the courtroom last time, and actually I was, because I was reporting on the case. I was a court watcher. That was it. I had not met either Robert Garza nor Carolina Garza until the day that I appeared in court. I intend to ask him questions, and I would ask that he stand up and be sworn in and excluded from the courtroom. So what Mr. Robertson really wanted to do was exclude me from reporting upon his dastardly deeds in the courtroom. And I will show you that, because I will talk about my testimony in this $1,590 transcript. Mr. Nace, who was the attorney for Mr. Garza, said, he is not a fact witness, Your Honor. All he is an observer. The court replies, okay. Mr. Nace says, and what Mr. Robertson is trying to promote here is a violation of the open courts policy with regard to other individuals observing courts proceedings. Because in the state of Texas, we do have the open courts doctrine. Any person of the public is allowed to enter the court and to observe what is going on in our courts. I believe it is a duty that we need to take seriously as citizens to see what is happening in our courts. If you saw what is happening in our courts, you would be shocked and appalled in many, many instances. If you see what these dirty attorneys, such as Mr. Rick Robertson of the Coons Fuller law firm, pull in these courtrooms, you would be shocked and appalled. Especially when you think it might happen to you, or it might happen to your children, or it might happen to your grandchildren. But the court said, okay, I obviously don't have a problem with anyone observing that. Everybody's allowed to observe. My question is, do you anticipate calling him as a witness in this matter? Now here is Mr. Robertson. I do anticipate calling him as a witness in this manner, Your Honor. Mr. Granada, who was another attorney working with Mr. Garza, says, in this hearing. Mr. Robertson says, in this hearing. The court says, okay. Mr. Granada says, for a protective order, somebody commenting. Mr. Robertson says, there are a number of reasons I am happy to answer any of your questions, Your Honor. I'm certainly not wanting to get into a discussion with either Mr. Nace or Mr. Granada. So anyway, I was sworn in as a witness, and I was told to leave the courtroom. And again, my contention is that Mr. Robertson, the attorney, Rick Robertson of Coons Fuller, did not want me reporting upon his dastardly deeds. He wanted me excluded so that I could not give additional reports upon what happened in that courtroom. So after waiting outside the courtroom for a couple of hours, I got called in. And Your Honor, this is Mr. Robertson. This is on page 202, line 13 of this $1,590 manuscript, which came in PDF form. Your Honor, I call Jeff Morgan. The court says, and sir, if you would, head right up to the witness stand, please. And you were previously sworn in, is that correct? To which I responded, yes. And I just want to put on the qualification to the degree that they'll let me tell the truth. I'll tell the whole truth. I don't think the court reporter got this exactly right. In fact, there is an audio and videotape that I really would like to see, because I remembered saying something a little bit differently. I may be incorrect here, but comes back to the issue of this, is that sometimes the court reporter does not get everything correct. In fact, within the court reporter may tell people to slow down, stop speaking because they can't capture everything. So even though this is a certified court transcript, it may be inaccurate. And in fact, there are times too, and I can't attest to that in this case, but there are other times in which a judge will tell a court reporter that something should not be included in the transcript. They make the court reporter delete things from the transcript. And I think that if this is going to be an official record, we should have all of this stuff in the transcript. The judge should not be able to edit the transcript because of something that was said that perhaps he didn't like. The judge should not be able to go back and undo his comments when he's already said them in court and has used that to threaten one of the individuals who was appearing before him. And basically what I did say, however, is that yes, I will tell the truth. I'll tell the truth all right. But whether I get to tell the entire truth, the whole truth, depends completely upon those attorneys. And the reason I said that is because in the courtroom, when you are asked to tell the truth, the attorneys can shut you down at any time they want to. You're telling the truth and they will object and they will tell you you're non-responsive. They will object and tell you that you're repeating hearsay. Even though they're asking you questions, they ask questions in such a way that all you can do is answer yes or no. And sometimes yes or no questions give false information, but the attorneys do not care. The attorneys want to tell the story. If you want truth, you will not find it in many instances in the courtroom, especially if there's one of these attorneys that shuts you down all the time. So that's why I said to the degree that these attorneys will let me tell the truth, I will tell the entire truth. Whether I will tell the truth, but whether I get to tell the entire truth, the whole truth, depends entirely upon these attorneys. So the court said, hold on, you are still under oath at this time, Mr. Morgan. I said, yes, absolutely, absolutely. The court asked if I would please spell my first and last name for the court reporter, to which I said Jeffrey, Jeffrey, Morgan, Morgan. The court said, and Mr. Robertson, you may proceed. Mr. Robertson says, thank you. Jeffrey Morgan, having been first duly sworn, testifies as follows, and here comes the direct examination. Starting with Mr. Robertson. Mr. Morgan, you were present in the courtroom on December the 4th, 2019 on this case. Is that correct? That is correct. Was that the first time you had been present for any hearings on this case? That is correct. Mr. Morgan, did you do some interviews after December the 4th that were posted on YouTube connected with this case? That is incorrect. Your Honor, if I could have an exhibit to show Mr. Morgan, and if I could have use of the AV equipment, I would appreciate it. The court granted him permission. You may. Give me just a moment. Mr. Robertson says, is that on mine? The court says, just a second. I'm switching over to the tablet. Let me see if it goes. Hold on. Mr. Robertson, are we having problems with the tablet, Judge? So now he's blaming the judge. Are we having a problem with the tablet, Judge? The court says, give me just a moment. Just wasn't sure what port you were connected into. Mr. Robertson, it's connected to the HDMI port, Your Honor. Are we ready? The court says, yes, sir. This should be coming up in just a moment. All right, you may proceed. And then the question by Mr. Robertson, so Mr. Morgan, do you see anything that you recognize on the screen? Now, the funny thing about this that the court transcript is not showing is that they were having tremendous audio video difficulties. The transcript does not reflect this at all. And this gets down to the point that these court transcripts, all they have are written words. They don't show the emotions. They don't show the fumbling by the attorneys. They don't show the nonverbal threats. They do not show the looks. All they do is capture an element. And anybody who studied communication knows that verbal communication is a small part of communication. It's the nonverbal, it's the posturing, it's the threats, it's the sneers, it's the tone of voice that is not captured in these transcripts that we need to see. These transcripts are imperfect at best because once again, even the court reporters know they are not capturing everything. Sometimes they say, slow down, I'm not capturing everything. That's why we need audio visual in these courtrooms. That's why every single proceeding should be videotaped with audio. We should be able to review these tapes, and we should not have to pay $1,590 for a PDF that you have to print off and bind yourself that is imperfect at best. Something is wrong with our courts when, in order to get justice, you have to pay $1,590 for a transcript, which again imperfectly captures what actually took place in the court. So, Mr. Morgan, do you see anything that you recognize on the screen? My answer was yes, I do. And did you create this video? Yes, I did. I will show you this marked as exhibit number 4 and represent to you that this is a true and correct copy of the video that you produced. To which I've said I've got it on my phone. I went back when I was called out to watch the video, at least the majority of the video, to make sure that I knew exactly what I was talking about when I came into the courtroom. That's fine. So, Mr. Morgan, is that video approximately 44 minutes long? The answer is yes, it is. By the way, I'm on page 205 of the transcript. Mr. Robertson and Your Honor, let me play just a little bit of it just to make sure that we're talking about the right one with Mr. Morgan. Do we have volume? Your Honor, I apologize. The court, I believe, if not, you can pull the microphone down to the speaker area. Mr. Robertson, well, for whatever reason, it's not playing the volume. And again, this was great fumbling in the court by Mr. Robertson. Here he is, this very highly paid attorney. He could not get the audio-visual to play. It was a disaster for his side. And I know that some of the people were kind of smirking and smiling because he appeared so incompetent. He couldn't even get the video to play. And this is going to be, I don't know, he's going to just nail me or something. I don't know what the whole deal is here. But Mr. Robertson just fumbled all over himself. So the question by Mr. Robertson, so Mr. Morgan, the video that you posted was posted on YouTube. That is correct. And you have a byline under the video to say, victims of the Texas anti-family court cartel. Yes, I do. And you interviewed Carolina Garza in this case. Do you not? Yes, I did. And you asked her lots of questions about the battle that is going on in the court. Is that correct? My answer was this. I was interviewing her as a reporter for United Parents for Children News, and yes, I asked her a lot of questions that the first time that I met her was actually in the courtroom, to which Mr. Robertson replied, objection, non-responsive. Mr. Robertson wanted to give his narrative, and my answer had a little bit too much information. He just wanted a yes or no. The fact that I was reporting as a member of United Parents for Children News, he did not like. And as I looked over at the judge, I think the judge's eyes got a little bit big, like, oh no, now we have media in the room. The court sustained his objection, of course. Mr. Robertson, all right, so let me try one more time and see if the video will play with volume, Your Honor. And of course it did not work, to which my answer was, and you can see the shirt says United Parents for Children News. I wanted the judge to know that I was there as a media reporter in the courtroom. I was a court watcher. I was there as a reporter for United Parents for Children News. And of course, Mr. Robertson says, objection, Your Honor, no question was asked. The court sustained it. Mr. Robertson says, for whatever reason, we're not getting volume. And once again, there were people throughout the courtroom, and they were smiling at the very least, if not chuckling under their breath, at the incompetence that Mr. Robertson was showing. This very highly paid Coons Fuller attorney could not get the video to play, could not get the audio to work. And actually, I was kind of smiling about it too, especially because it got stuck on a picture of me wearing my burgundy coat that said United Parents for Children News. So the question comes from Mr. Robertson. You go into approximately a 44-minute interview about this case, do you not? Answer, well, it's less than that because I did the introduction first. I probably did about 5 minutes of introduction stating what the case was about. Question, the total time of your YouTube post was approximately 44 minutes, was it not? Approximately. All right, and you had not talked with anybody on Miss Ogle's side in this case. My answer was I have not. I would love to do so. And again, the court reporter caught part of my response. I do not believe the court reporter caught everything I said, but I would very much love to interview Miss Vanessa Ogle. She is the one that I thought was being very abusive, and I would love to hear her side of the story. I would love to have her. And even right now, I would say, Vanessa Ogle, if you would like to come on camera with me, I would be very happy to interview you. And you know, you don't have to have Mr. Robertson there. Please come on. I beg you. come and see me. You can contact me, and I'll be very happy to interview you about this case and about the history of the case that I've read so far. Mr. Robertson objected to my saying I would love to do so. I have not, I would love to do so. Objection non-responsive. Of course, the court sustains his objection. Mr. Robertson, Mr. Morgan, in that YouTube posting, well, strike that. So evidently, Mr. Robertson had a brain, we'll call it, for politeness sake, a brain freeze versus the other word. He had a slight brain freeze. He was going to say something, but didn't quite complete his thoughts, so we'll strike that. You were in this courtroom where you heard that the judge extended a TRO regarding exposing the children to any social media posts about this case, were you not? To which my answer was, I don't remember that in particular. I was here, but this was not designed for a child. In fact, it's not marketed as for children, because in my YouTube, it says not for children. Mr. Robertson, objection non-responsive. Once again, we must quelch the truth because Mr. Robertson wants a narrative that he's trying to portray, and the truth kind of does not fit with this narrative. The court once again sustained Mr. Robertson's objection. Another question by Mr. Robertson. You understand that this was not a private post that you made on YouTube? To which my answer was absolutely it was not. I was using my exercise, to which I wanted to say my exercise for free speech and as a member of the media. Mr. Robertson, objection non-responsive after absolutely. The court sustained it again. Now here comes another question by Mr. Robertson. Now, was Mr. Garza present when you were interviewing his wife? My answer was he was in and out, but he was not saying a thing. Question, I understand, but was he present? He was in and out. I was interviewing his wife. I wanted to hear from her perspective as the wife to Mr. Garza. How did she feel this whole case was affecting and impacting them and their marriage and the relationship that he had with his children? I wasn't talking with Mr. Garza. I was talking with his wife. And for the most part, Mr. Garza was out of the room. He would walk in on occasion, but for the most part, he was out of the room. He was not interfering. He was not coaching. I was talking with Miss Garza. And evidently, somehow he's trying to make this look like maybe Mr. Garza's behind this whole thing. Mr. Garza had nothing to do with it. I asked Mrs. Garza on several occasions. In fact, I was the one who actually, I said, could you please do it? We would love to hear from you. I think it would be beneficial. She was hesitant to do it. It was at my urging that she actually did. And did that happen at their residence? In their home? To which my answer, of course, was yes, it did. Your Honor, we offer the movement's Mother's Exhibit number 4. The court, any objections? Mr. Nace, Mr. Garza's attorney, just on the basis of relevance, the court, any objections? Miss Borzine, now Miss Borzine is another attorney there, and Miss Borzine actually also called me to be a witness. Miss Borzine didn't even know my name. She just referred to me as the man in the burgundy coat. We will definitely have him up on the stand. So Miss Borzine, no ma'am. So the court decided the judge decided that she was going to admit the Mother's Exhibit number 4. Mr. Robertson, no further questions of this witness, Your Honor. So now, Mr. Robertson, he got me kicked out of the courtroom because I was going to be a very relevant witness, and he asked me things that I would have been very glad to tell them to begin with. Yes, I did an interview. Yes, it's posted on YouTube. Anybody can see this. Everything that I do is very public, and it's not designed to be private. It's designed to expose this entire corrupt system to show how bad it really is. But this was Mr. Robertson's question, and you would think that being as he wants me as a witness to something, he would ask me some other questions, not the idiotic questions that he asked me. Now here comes the cross-examination, and this is done by Miss Borzine, because Mr. Nace passed on me. He had no questions for me. Miss Borzine, sir, your public post on YouTube has a date of December the 8th. When was that video actually filmed? To which I said it was filmed on December the 4th. That's why I said it was incorrect to his question. I had to edit it. And I did edit it to make sure there was no. Of course, now Miss Borzine starts to object. Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive, sustained. And the reason I said that I was editing it is because I wanted to make sure that there was no private information divulged regarding the name of either the mother or of the children. There wasn't, but I wanted to make sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that none of these things were out there. But of course, now because I said that, they want to strike it down because they're trying to portray me as somebody who is irresponsible, somebody who's somehow disobeying the judge, that they're going to use against Mr. Garza. Now, Ms. Borstein says, let me clarify one thing, if I may. And December the 4th would have been a Tuesday. Is that correct? My answer was whenever the day it was. I don't know the date that we were here. Whatever that was, immediately after that is when I went to their house. I met them here for the first time that day. A friend told me about the case, said, I think you should go up and see them. And I went up to see them. And that was the first time that I met them in person, December the 4th, 2019, at Collin County Courthouse in court number 469. And did they ask you to come? My answer was, I asked if I could meet with them, and then they suggested we go out or we go to their house. And I thought that was easier to go to their house. Did Mr. Garza reach out to you regarding my answer? No, I reached out to him. And how did you learn of this case? Answer, I learned of it through a mutual friend. And as I said, I do work for United Parents for Children News. To which Ms. Borstein says, objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. Sir, when one of the attorneys object, you need to stop. Because when she objected, I think I intentionally kept talking so that they would know that it was because I was working for United Parents for Children News. The third time I put it out there so the judge would know that I was there as a member of the media covering this issue as a court watcher. I had no other knowledge of this case except what I saw in the courtroom. Are there any other posts that were made by you or one of your affiliates regarding these children? This again is Ms. Borstein. And my answer was I would have to contact my news organization to find out, but I do have that video broken down into 4 separate videos. I broke it down into shorter, more digestible segments, and then I put it together as one. Question, sir, and since we couldn't hear the audio, because once again, Mr. Robertson, that very highly paid attorney from Coons Fuller, could not get it to work. It was actually quite hilarious. There were, again, many people were kind of smiling and probably even laughing. If they would have been allowed to laugh out loud, it would have been really, really fun. But since we couldn't hear the audio, are the children's names referenced in the video? My answer was no, they are not. And again, when I was outside, First, I had edited the video to make sure no children's were named, and then I listened to the video to make sure were the children's names ever mentioned. And I saw that there was no evidence of the children's names ever being mentioned. To which, no, they are not. Ms. Borstein says, pass the witness. And I also said, nor is Vanessa's name referenced. Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive, sustained. Any further questions? Mr. Robertson now comes back up. Mr. Robertson, that highly paid attorney from Coons Fuller, Mr. Rick Robertson, says, Your Honor, I think that I can play the audio briefly through this. Here he comes again. He's already failed on multiple occasions, but if at first you don't succeed, try again. So Mr. Robertson, once again, tried to play the audio of the video. I'm not planning on playing the whole thing, but I just want to play a minute or two if that would be okay. The court, you may. Mr. Robertson, well, again, I'm sorry, Your Honor, for whatever reason, it's not working. So the technological guru of the Coons Fuller firm, I'm calling him that out of laughter right now, Mr. Rick Robertson once again tried to play the video, and once again, it didn't work. So again, they were... I was chuckling about the whole thing. I couldn't chuckle out loud, but inwardly I was smiling a lot, as were other people. Now, the redirect examination by Mr. Robertson. Do you mention the court's name in your video post, Mr. Morgan? And I wasn't sure, so I said I'm not sure. I think I may have, but I am not positive. I don't remember right offhand. Absolutely true. Okay, did you mention Judge Piper McCraw in your... my answer again is I do not think I mentioned Judge Piper McCraw's name. Again, I'm not positive. And once again, I didn't go back to the whole thing to watch it. I watched the part that I spoke, the interview with Carolina. So it turned out that I actually did mention both the court and the judge's name. But at the time, I really didn't know. I thought maybe I did, maybe I didn't. My answers were truthful, but Mr. Garza or Mr. Robertson couldn't play the video. Whatever I put out there, I put out there. Mr. Robertson goes further, but again, whatever the video that's already been admitted into evidence says, that's what it says. And if you mention, absolutely, I put it out there. When I put the video out there, it's my name on it. I put it out there. Okay, do you have a full-time job? Yes, I do. What is your full-time job? I work for and I'm not going to mention the name of the corporation, and I said what I did. And Mr. Robertson says, okay, pass the witness. Mr. Nace had no questions. Ms. Borsine had no questions. And the court asked Mr. Robertson, is this witness reserved or released at this time? Reserved, Your Honor. And the court had to say, sir, you are reserved at this time. If you would, just wait right outside the hallway and someone will be with you shortly. To which I said, thank you. Thanks so much. The court said, and you may call your next witness. Once again, I was kicked out of the courtroom, and Mr. Robertson did this intentionally. He knew exactly what he was doing. He did not want this stuff to be exposed, and therefore, I do have, instead, this $1,590 transcript. Now, what I want to ask a question about is this. Why does a person have to spend $1,590 for a PDF? Why? And the interesting thing is this. Not just that Mr. Garza have to spend this money, but I believe that also Miss Vanessa Ogle had to spend this money. And if there's a different attorney there as well, I believe there's probably at least 2 or 3 or 4 copies of this. People have had to spend $1,590 on this transcript. And if you think about this, this is about $6,400. If there's 4 transcripts, it's $6,400. If there's 3 transcripts, it's $4,800, and there's only about 5 hours of work. So some of the questions that I have is, number one, how much is the court reporter getting paid for this? This is a pretty lucrative position if it all goes to her, which I'm sure it doesn't. But we'll say that even if she makes $100 an hour, we'll just say maybe $100 an hour, and maybe it was 5 hours or something, that's $500, we still have over $4,000 that people have had to pay for that which they should be able to have for free, because there is an audio-video recording of the entire proceeding. Why? What happened to that extra $4,000? What happened to that extra, if they got 4 transcripts, what has happened to that extra almost $5,800? Where does that money go? Who profits from this? This whole court transcription stuff is a racket as well. And again, the court reporters, they control some of the proceedings. They control they make people speak up. Sometimes they can't hear them. They make them slow down. The judge pays attention to what the court what the court reporter is saying, and will actually tell the people you have to slow down so that the court reporter can get it. And yet, even with this transcript, this $1,590 PDF, which he had to print off and then also bind and give to me, this is, again, the most expensive book in my library. My library of over 3,000 books at one time. This is the most expensive book that I've had, and this is of a court proceeding. Something is wrong that we are charging people that much money. In fact, I would say that there should be a service that would be provided for free. If somebody's going to be suing somebody, the person who is being sued should not have to pay additional money for this. The court transcript is very important because if you want to appeal something, you must have the transcript. And this is the transcript that they go by. So in order to get to the next level to appeal something, in this case, he had to pay $1,590 for this as a basis for an appeal to move forward. This is an entire racket. The court system itself is a racket. I don't know who's making all of this additional profit, but I know that the court reporter, I doubt that she's being paid $500 an hour to do this stuff. And even if she is being paid $500 an hour to do this stuff, this is an imperfect transcript of what took place. It does not capture the emotions. It does not capture the threats. It does not capture the facial expressions. It does not capture the posturing. And it actually may even be inaccurate in what it is recording down here. This is a racket, I think, that needs to be investigated. I think that all of the court proceedings, especially when you have children at stake, when you have a mother or a father whom somebody is trying to terminate the parental rights, should be video recorded without exception, and that there should be a committee to review that, to make sure that these attorneys, like Attorney Rick Robertson, does not do anything nefarious and evil and underhanded, and that the judges should be held accountable, and that the court reporter gets it right, and that if something else is going on, there's something that violates due process, something that takes place in which due process is being deprived under the color of law, the deprivation of rights under the color of law, which is a federal crime, we need to have some recourse without going to this imperfect document, $1,590. And again, sometimes the judges will tell the court reporter to strike something out, to edit something out. There have been multiple people that have told me, no, this was said and it's not in the court document. Why is that? Why is that? You cannot have justice in the state of Texas unless you actually have an accurate recording of what's taken place. This is another racket. It takes place every single day in the state of Texas. It is a profitable venture, and it's something that should stop. And by the way, like I said, this is the most expensive book in my library. The second most expensive book in my library is one that cost $1,200. And I know that because I had to pay for it myself. When I was sued illegitimately, it captured perjury. It captured all sorts of falsity. I had to spend $1,200 in order to have my own transcript. So between the top two most expensive books in my library, manuscripts, PDFs that I've had to print off afterwards, or somebody's printed off and have given to me afterwards, cost $2,800. And what were they for? They were because of court transcripts. Something is wrong. We need to fix this system. This is something that our legislature should look at immediately. This is something that should be abolished as a practice, especially in family courts. This is another way that these people are financially raping both mothers and fathers. They are destroying families. And the thing is this, every level of government, they know about this. Our Governor Greg Abbott knows about this. Our Attorney General Ken Paxton knows about this. Every single person knows about this. Family law attorneys, they know about this. They all defend it. Why do they defend it? What is it that is going on in here? Something is wrong, that they are raping us financially, and they are doing these things, and that the judges can tell a court reporter, take that out, and it is no longer there. Many, many people will tell you about that. This is something that needs to be fixed immediately. And this, again, the $1,590 manuscript, $1,590 manuscript, because a person is being sued, he has got to spend an additional $1,590 in order to have this as a defense, and to use it as an appeal. Something is wrong with our judiciary when you have to spend this much money for a transcript, that should be given to you for free. People have said that justice is supposed to be blind. It's not completely. It's not. You get as much justice as you can afford to pay. You get as much justice as you can afford to buy. And this transcript, this $1,590 transcript, is evident of the fact that if you don't have $1,590 to pay, you may never get any justice. In this case, my friend, Mr. Garza, has gotten a lot of justice. He's had to use this, but he has spent thousands and thousands of dollars buying transcripts because he's been sued illegitimately. And people like Rick Robertson of the Kunstfuller Law Firm know that they are doing anything that they can to destroy him and to help destroy his family. Something is wrong. We need to have an ethics probe. We need to have a big probe. We need to have oversight over the judiciary. The legislature needs to do its job and do it right. We need to fix this problem in the state of Texas. Thank you.